So let's try to visualize the flow now that's based on this flow chart. So first you have the big projects, which is what we just looked at here, this entire list. And so when we opened it, we got here, which is the big project. And then the second thing, we had milestone 1, milestone 2, and milestone 3. In this case, the big project is handled by the project manager, and the team lead is more concerned with the milestones. And then for the tasks themselves is what we now see here, which is handled by the amazing team, which I am sure that you have. Hello. This would be a concise overview of how the Notion project management platform works. It has been built for small teams ranging from just one person, that is for personal use, and scaling up to even 100 people. And it is aimed at achieving an efficient workflow and seamless collaboration over multiple projects while achieving varying levels of privacy at the same time. So without further ado, we will get right into it by going through three major areas that makes this whole project management system work as a unit. Actually, those are the three sections that this entire overview will be divided into. The first one we will look at is the main company dashboard, which is where we are now. It is best to look into this first before going into the project manager proper, which is in this area, because it is meant to provide us with the basic context of the whole setup, and it will lay the foundation for subsequent aspects of the Notion project management workflow we'll be looking into. However, we will not be dwelling too much on the full company dashboard as it is beyond the scope of this overview. We will need to start here though, so that we'll be better oriented as we go deeper. The second thing we'll be dwelling into is the anatomy of the project manager itself. So we'll be going into this area. And finally, we will be talking about privacy and access sharing with your team, as well as with guests. Now, before we get started, please note that all the materials that would be made use of in this video review are from a real company that has experienced real positive results, and I have obtained permission to make use of these materials while maintaining client confidentiality. So as we proceed, you might observe that some sensitive info may be blurred or redacted where necessary. So kindly excuse that. You can also toggle between light and dark mode on your Notion account, depending on your preference. I work with dark mode predominantly, so we'll be using that for this overview. So part one, the main company dashboard. Well, we can see that the name also has been changed to a placeholder from what the actual company name was. Lorem Ipsum team. That's what we'll be going with for the purposes of this overview. So observe in this dashboard that all the items in the dashboards are all grouped according to how each item is related to its neighbor. And this is purely for organizational purposes. So we see the first thing, which is our tasks, things like our inbox for quick mental notes, pending proper signing. You can see all our tasks, all our non-client related tasks. In the operation hub here, you can see weekly review, things related to your team, your staff, and things like that. You can see some protocols. We also have resources here in the resources hub or the resources tab. It contains your archive, your logins, docs, Zoom meeting notes, and stuff like that. But this is where we'll be focusing on, which is the projects hub. We have different categories of projects, as you can see: clients project, non-client projects. We even have an onboarding protocol. The onboarding protocol or standard operating procedure is basically a series of steps that helps the hiring team to keep track of the onboarding process of various new hires. It's discussed more in depth in a separate video, as it's beyond the scope of this discussion. Things related to marketing projects, project goals and milestones, and stuff like that. But for things like client projects and non-client projects, there are things that we will be looking into. So naturally, project categories will vary depending on your field. And needless to say, you are, of course, completely free to use your own method of categorizing this entire dashboard in a way that fits with your specific needs in your field. Everything seen here is fully customizable at any point. And you can also include other cool stat mods like staff workload, periodic budgets, and even interactive flowcharts and histograms and things like that. Other performance metrics, basically, that are relevant to your field. So now that we've had a good foundation, let us narrow down our focus to the second part of this overview, which is the project management platform itself and how it works. And to do that, we'll click projects. This is a shortcut, so we can just open it in a new block, but it's already open here. And so once you open that, you are greeted with this area, which shows everything related to your projects. Now, the success of any project requires that it is first divided into smaller milestones and further subdivided into tasks and subtasks that must be accomplished within a stipulated time frame in order for one to safely call it a completed project. Now, here is a visual representation of this philosophy. Now, you see that for a project to be completed, it has to be divided into manageable milestones. And these milestones will be divided into tasks. I'm sure we all know this. And these tasks need to be ticked off by actual people one by one. And so for these people to exist, these are the ones that we call staff here. We have the team lead, we have the project manager. So these are the people that are necessary for the project to succeed. This is the basic premise that allows for the forward movement of all establishments and companies and teams and the like. So therefore, in this section, we will be looking into the anatomy of a successful project management platform, the project to be done itself, the people to complete the project, and finally, the tasks necessary to complete that project, just as we have seen in this mini flow chart here. Coming from the company dashboard, we will breeze past the components of this database. The first thing we can see are the project status and the percentage progress that are based on the tasks that have been ticked off. As we can see here, we can also see a nice bar that gives us a visual representation of that. We can also see the project time frame and the auto-calculated delivery dates. At the time of this recording, I haven't quite gotten around to fixing up this delivery column. It's showing minus 182 days overdue. Actually, it's supposed to have stopped after a certain day. I'll fix it. I'll fix it. It shouldn't be that hard anyway. Anyway, we proceed to the project manager column, and we also have the assigned team. We will visit the people database or the staff database. We also have parent companies and subsidiaries. Okay, so for this parent company column, it's basically for keeping track of clients that have more than one project with you. For example, you can have a parent company, Google, contracting you to do maybe 1, 2, 3 projects, and you can have Apple contracting you to do 1, 2, 3, another 3, and then maybe Microsoft contracts you to do another 3. So while you are seeing 9 projects here, you'll be able to know that, okay, these are the people we are working for. So that's basically what the parent company entails. So that's the idea. So scrolling down, we see other project categories. And as we briefly saw in the dashboard earlier, we can see things like support mode projects. These are for clients who perhaps pay a monthly fee for us to keep things alive for them over time. We have completed projects, which are stored for future reference. We even have inactive, we have archived projects as well. Because for archived projects especially, we do not delete anything here unless we are 100%, absolutely 100% sure. And that is why we archive things. And yeah, there's no need going into these, the lists. Each of these lists are basically like this first one, except that instead of them being tagged as active projects, they are now tagged as either a support mode project, something that has been complete, paused, archived, inactive, things like that. So that's that. So before we open a project to see how it's broken down, to see how a specific project works, it is important we visit the staff database because we are only as powerful as our team. We are only as effective as our staff or the people around us. And so to do that, let's briefly visit the people database. All right. So this is the people database. We can call it the staff database, contacts database, depending on what you like. Basically, it's where we record all your Notion related staff details. Obviously, you want to be wary of including overly sensitive info, just in case. I'm not saying Notion isn't secure, I guess. It's just you can impute as much detail as you are comfortable with. In this case, I'll show you what detail we have here. It's pretty basic, really. However, it's like I mentioned earlier, it's important. It's an important part of the project management workflow, and this we will discover as we proceed with this overview. In this table, you find stuff like full name, department, which is actually linked to another database. That's when you scroll up, we can see the departmental database. So here we can see that these small numbers just show the number of active staff in each department. It's a rather small team. And then the names above show the team leads or the HODs, as some would like to call them. So that's the departmental database. So back to the staff database, we have talked about full name, we've talked about department, we even have contact emails. Their real emails have been redacted for confidentiality. In this case, we can see sampleemail.com. His full name is, we just put Benjamin Buttons here, but this is actually the name that is seen once we are tagged in another database. So if you notice, I included their primary department in brackets, and this is a purely subjective choice. As a project manager, it helps me to always remember who is in what department. Plus, there is also the speed factor. Like if I want to tag someone from a specific team and I can't quite recall that in the moment, I can just start typing something like contents or Laravel or marketing or WordPress, and every person in that list will appear in the property where you're trying to tag them. I'm referring to a relational property because because you have already included the keywords in their name prior to this time. But hey, that's just me. Feel free to implement the style that works best for you. Scrolling down, we can see that we also have some subcategories like all active freelancers, all inactive staff, all inactive freelancers, back-end staff, like people like suppliers, for example, who may not be directly associated with the team's day-to-day activities. Inactive staff, we can just say for whatever reason they are no longer with you, but based on the philosophy that we don't delete anything on Notion because you don't know whether you need it in the future. We just archive them and keep them in another list. So basically, you will find in all these toggles is something like this, except that it's now showing as inactive. So that's the only difference. So you are, of course, at liberty to categorize your staff according to your specific needs or requirements. Now that we understand how the people database or staff database, as some would call it, we can now go back to the tasks area of a project to see how it works. So to do this, we'll open a sample project. Let's say sample project 1. It opens in a sidebar, but we can always open it in a new tab. So once we open this sample project 1, as we can see here, it leads us to the tasks that are related to a project. Now, this was actually a real project that has obviously been renamed. And at the very top, we are greeted with the milestones or the project milestones. And this helps us to categorize tasks in a structured, searchable form. You can take advantage of knowing how a specific milestone is gone. That is by visually observing the percentage progress for the milestones. You can just see that. And you can also see the number of tasks that are related to each milestone. So in this case, for example, you can see milestone 1, to complete domain purchase and set up MVP website version. For sample project 1, you can see that there are 11 tasks let me not hover on it, but we can see that there are 11 tasks that have been assigned to that. For the milestone 2, you can see that 14 tasks have been assigned, of which 64% of those are complete. So based on this, without even going into the main task list in the first place, the project manager can have a rough idea of the overall progress of that particular project. By the way, you can see that overall progress here as well, which is 82%. And the project time frame, this is the project manager, and the assigned team. You can always delegate this assigned team. Once you click the plus button up here, you can do that, but no need to get into that for now. And in this case, actually, some of the tasks were deliberately unchecked in order to show some variety in the percentage progress column. Initially, they were all 100%. So scrolling a bit down, we can now see the full list of tasks. And you can see that by default, they have been grouped in order of priority, as we observe by this star designation. So what I mean is that the first thing you will see is the 5-star, which is urgent priority. And then scrolling down, we'll see that we have high priority project. We have scrolling down, we see medium priority, low priority project, and so on and so forth. So to go through how the entire database works, the first thing we can see the approved section. So basically, when a staff says that a task is complete, he will tag it as complete, and the project manager will need to, or the team lead or the person in charge will look at it, and once it's approved, he just ticks it. So that is the idea of that. The second option is the due date for that task to be completed. Then we also have the task itself. Then we have the team lead as well as the person actually responsible for the task. The idea here is that in a case where multiple projects are in progress, there is less stress on a single project manager. How? The project manager can now mainly interact with the tagged team lead here, or HOD, who then delegates to a member of their department, since he or she is more familiar with his team and knows and is more familiar with their workload. So that's how it helps make things easier for the project manager. So we also have the task duration column. This is rather subjective, really, in reality, because a lot of variables tend to affect these initially set durations. But it's still nice to have. It helps to at least provide a sort of benchmark. But in a broader sense, it's recommended to work with the overall deadline of the project, which is this date. But whichever works for you, really. Also, we have not seen the department column. This is basically just the department that the task is related to. So depending on what task is here, it's a different department that is going to work on it. So that's what this is for. And this is the related milestone. So if you want to do a task, what are we aiming for? What milestone? I'm referring to this 6 milestones. What one of these 6 milestones is this particular task targeting? It helps a lot with focus, with keeping the team focused and accountable at all times. We are not just adding random tasks for whatever reason. So now we have noticed that we have different views depending on the need at the time, all of which are fully editable at any point. We can view by priority, which is what we have been doing now. Yeah, we can also view by milestone. I've just clicked that, and then we can view by according to each department. So by milestone, we can now see, okay, for milestone 1, we can see that the arrangement has been changed. We didn't add any extra, we didn't type anything extra. It's the same list from before, but it's been filtered in a different way to show milestones instead of priorities. So when we scroll down, we see the different tasks. Like in this case, we see 11 tasks. We see 14 tasks for milestone 2. We see about 7 tasks for milestone 3, and so on. We also have the departments filter, or the departmental view, where we see the tasks that are assigned to each department. In this case, the WordPress designers, they have about 16 tasks for this project. Okay, We skipped one. Okay, this is social media where they have one task. Project management team has one task. So we get the idea. We see how this works. And so scrolling down, we scroll down towards the very bottom. Okay, these are developers' tasks as well. We didn't deal with developers, so we canceled everything and just ticked that all of them have been approved. That it's approved to be cancelled. Basically, that's what it means. So when you keep scrolling down, we can see resources. I'm not at liberty to open this at the moment, but it basically talks about everything related to every single resource document login that is related to the project in question. That way, all the relevant staff is able to access everything under one umbrella. So, as you may have noticed, the overarching goal is to keep everything related to this project in one place where they can be easily retrieved by the appropriate personnel on your team. So, yeah, with this, we have fully gone through the actual tasks area of the project. So, let's try to visualize the flow now. That's based on this flow chart. So, first, you have the big projects, which is what we just looked at here, this entire list. And so, when we opened it, we got here, which is the big project. And then the second thing we had milestone 1, milestone 2, and milestone 3. In this case, the big project is handled by the project manager, and the team lead is more concerned with the milestones. And then for the tasks themselves is what we now see here, which is handled by the amazing team, which I am sure that you have. So because those milestones are married to specific tasks, everyone is accountable, and it's less overwhelming to keep track of any single working mechanism of the project. So this is really all to it. This is all there is to it about the workings of the project management platform. But before we proceed to part 3, let's tie up this section with knowing why it was important to initially show the main dashboard at the beginning of the video. Now, depending on the size of your team, you may have likely heard all of the stuff we just talked about. There is all this entire flow, this entire funnel. You may have had it happening in maybe 3 or 4, 5, or even 10 projects at the same time. It's not at all uncommon. So you see, the beauty of the dashboard is that you can now appreciate how the team admin or the personnel in charge is able to efficiently leverage their bird's eye view from this vantage point to better orient or to be better oriented on the state of things in general. You can look at past events. You can, especially in this area, you can look at past events. You can look at ongoing operations and even upcoming activities. And based on the relevant information that is easily harvested from this mini control tower, the project manager can now make a more informed and concrete plan in real life regarding how things will go in the team going forward. Now, of course, you can always knock yourself out and spice things up a little on this. You can go crazy with ideas, embed some cool interactive flow charts and histograms and pie charts and all of that good stuff to make your cockpit more visually appealing. Cockpit or dashboard, same thing, people call it differently. Not just visually appealing, it makes it, even more importantly, more functionally sound. The sky is the limit here. There are infinite possibilities when it comes to these cool creative implementations you can make here to best serve your team's workflow and daily interaction. Speaking of interaction, this brings us to the third and final part of this overview, which is all about privacy and sharing. Yeah, so this deals with the people database or the staff database or the staff area, the people area, whatever we want to call it. So now, all of the things discussed above really wouldn't matter much if it can be exposed to the world at any time. We all appreciate the need for control of what we make public, as well as who has access to the information shared. And with an understanding that not all things need to be equally made public, we have taken advantage of Notion's permission features to make sharing easy, both internally that is within your team and externally, let's say with the clients or auditor or your mom, for instance. Now, for the purposes of this video, we have divided this section into two parts, which is internal sharing and external sharing. So for internal sharing, in this template, we handle privacy concerns on that front by setting up personal dashboards for all staff. And this is how that looks like. So we have a personal workspace. This is Cynthia C's workspace, not the real name. Basically, this contains a personalized task list. Let's open this. It contains a personalized task list for each staff, and it helps everyone to know exactly what tasks have been assigned to them without them having to visually sweep and filter through an entire list, an entire general list, for example, with other teammates. It helps to increase efficiency since one is less likely to miss a task in such a large general list. So in this case, basically, you can see that this is Cynthia's dashboard. So all she needs to do is to log into her Notion and basically scroll down and see what she needs to do today. Okay, the list is empty at the moment, largely because if you notice in the project area, the dates are quite far back. And so most of the tasks are no longer close to the date of this recording. And so everything is blank at the moment. But the idea generally is that she'll see her own version of this kind of list, except that instead of seeing everything here, she'll be seeing only the ones where she has been mentioned at any point. So if she has been tagged here in this team lead column or responsible column, Cynthia will be able to see it in her list. So whether it's a task that needs to be done today or a task that is overdue, maybe she wasn't able to complete it yesterday, it will now appear in this overdue section. Upcoming tasks also appear here. And so that is the logic. And so the privacy part of it comes in the sense that once you click this share button, let's go back to the workspace. So once you click the share dialog, you can share to web and add her email specifically. That way, it's only Cynthia that is able to access her workspace, as well as we can set it in such a way that other admin members of the team, like let's say the director or the CEO, those are the only ones that will be able to access this workspace, but no one else. So that's the idea of keeping things private within the team. So once this is shared, everything that you put on this page, whether it's a dashboard or you add something else here later, she only needs the URL, the web link that is shared here in order to access everything that is assigned to her. Now, project managers have a slightly modified version of this same dashboard whereby they can see even the specific projects they are involved in. So in this case, you can see that Victor here is actually a project manager. So he's not just seeing his overdue tasks or reminders or upcoming tasks. He can also see the projects that he has been assigned to, all from his dashboard. So while the main admin, for example, is looking at the main dashboard, it's not everyone in the team that can do that every day. In order to keep your team focused, we have organized this personalized dashboard in such a way that they can just log in the morning and see everything that is assigned to them specifically and work on it from the get-go. When you scroll down, you see that project managers also have access to the team database right within their personal dashboard. This is the team database or the departmental database. This is to help a new project manager, for example, to quickly get familiar with the different departments, as well as to know what HOD, or that's what team lead rather, he's able to know who to contact whenever the need arises. As mentioned earlier, is these names that are directly under the department: content writing, Clement S. So Clement is the team lead for the content writing department. Justice is the team lead for the WordPress department. So that's basically it. Project managers just are able to know who to contact regarding anything that comes up in the course of a project's progress. So conversely, as mentioned earlier, the default team member dashboard only has access to what they're allowed access to. I mean, it's pretty much everything under this shared folder: the undowns, the to-dos, and the upcomings. Okay, one more thing: recurring tasks. We understand that this is a bit of a challenge when it comes to setting up a robust project management platform. And even though at the time of this recording, Notion seems to be working on an acquisition to solve this challenge, we've been able to um, take advantage of some creativity and create a similar environment to a recurring task. And we've done this by setting tasks up here in such a way that they remain on the today list, that the task will remain on the today list as long as it's relevant, or rather it remains on any list that it's supposed to be as long as it's relevant to that particular list. So if something is supposed to be done within the next 5 days, we don't necessarily need to include maybe 5 separate entries for 5 different dates. We can just set it in such a way that it appears on the staff task list within that 5-day time frame or duration. And so, yeah, I mean, that's neat, I guess. So moving forward, the second aspect of sharing involves sharing outside of the team. What we just talked about is sharing within the team, but now we want to share outside the team. Like if we want to share any form of content with a third party, like we mentioned earlier, a client or an auditor. A use case for this is when perhaps your team wishes to keep the client in the loop with what's going on with the project in real time, but not necessarily want him or her to have full access to all the in-house confidential information. So this platform provides a way around this also by creating a folder with filtered down content specific to the client. So this is where the folder is actually. This is the client folder. So when you scroll up, it's actually the first thing you see. And once you click it, it opens up here. So once you have this, it keeps everyone happy since everything that needs to be shared with the client will exist inside this folder. While the list may look similar to what's on the original project, it actually isn't. We've actually set it in such a way that only the tasks that we deem important for the client to see, those are the only tasks that he will see. So it's really a win-win. Everyone is happy and confidential or team information is not made public. So yeah, either way, probably an anthem at this point, but once again, it's all fully customizable in real time as the project progresses. So a small caveat, one caveat to take note of, though, is that the Notion plan you are on at the moment may slightly affect your sharing limits, or it will affect how private you can keep things within a team. Obviously, you can get better control with the slightly pricier Notion team plan than you would get with the Personal Pro plan. The lower tier Personal Pro will limit your share control to an unlimited number of guests, but the guests, you can't group them into like departments, for example. While on the higher team plan, you have options of specifying the level of control you can grant to separate to entire groups. Maybe you can divide your team into entire groups and you can give different levels of control to them. But it's not that big of a deal depending on the size of your team. And yeah, that's that for the tier plan, just so you have it in mind. The free plan is, I'll say, it's completely out of the question for large teams that are more than 5. At the time of this recording, Notion allows the free plan to invite a maximum number of 5 guests. So if your team is less than 5, you should be fine. So you might want to bear all of this in mind as you make your plans. Okay, now to wrap this up, this is pretty much everything really. This has been a comprehensive walkthrough of the project management platform, plus company dashboard built in Notion to help make it easier for individuals and teams to more effectively organize tasks, projects, workflows, resource materials, and so on, and all within a seamlessly interlinked workspace. I trust you found it as useful as I did, And I hope you are able to take full advantage of this to move your team's efficiency to the next level in both workflow and execution. Thank you for watching.